You know, I hate the sound of my own voice. I know everybody says that, but I think I have a particularly horrible voice. It is what it is, I suppose. All right, well, before we get started... Oh, whoops, wrong password. Stupid idiot. I'm just logging in. Whee! We're going to do the opening announcements, which are always super fun. And we're on Twitch, right? Hi, Twitch people. I just ate Chick-fil-A, so I probably have something in my teeth. So don't worry about it if there is. So welcome to OKC SQL. Thank you to everybody who showed up. It's really hot out there, so traveling is a bummer. Just going outside in general, outside the AC is a bummer. So we appreciate your sacrifice and showing up and sticking with the community. I'll give Gretchen the opportunity to talk about Addison Group real quick before we go too much further. Do you want to, if you're okay with it? Yeah? You cool being on stream? Okay, she said okay right there. Everybody, you heard it.
Wherever this is going, that's fine. I'm with Addison Group. We're a specialized staffing. Do you want me to look at the camera? Does it matter?
Sure, you can if you want to.
Okay.
There's probably 1 or 0 people watching, so it's okay.
Okay. We're a specialized staffing firm here in Oklahoma City, but we are a national firm. I'm sure you guys already know my spiel, but we have 30 locations now across the U.S. So I work on our direct hire team, but we also have a contract and contract to hire team, so we cover all positions. So anything IT related, I mean, obviously we do work data positions, but I mean, full stack development, anything on infrastructure. So if you need help finding a job, definitely come to Addison Group.
Awesome.
Okay.
Cool,
Thanks.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give it up for Addison Group. Also providing the Chick-fil-A tonight, which is awesome. And I can't remember if it was with you or Megan, but somebody from the group got placed with Addison Group. Yeah, which was awesome. Yeah, a few months ago. So we want to keep that going, keep getting people placed, helping. Everybody helps everybody. That's what I like. It's why I said yes to sort of doing a terrible job running this group because, I think that even though I don't do the best job, I mean, people still show up, and it's good for the community to grow and get better, and ultimately, it helps everybody get jobs and make money, and it helps Addison Group, it helps people get jobs, helps the company, and it just helps everyone. It's pretty cool. So thank you, and people online, anybody who may be watching, we do have Chick-fil-A this time, so should have braved the heat. Could have gotten some. Those cookies were, I'm not just saying, they're delicious, on top of just everything else Chick-fil-A. We are sponsored by Techlahoma, which is why we're staying here at Starspace 46 and being broadcast out of Starspace 46. Techlahoma is awesome. They are a nonprofit organization. They host a bunch of other groups like this one. We may be merging with a few groups, I'm not sure, but for the time being, there's also analytics team group. There's an big data, however you want to say it, data or data, really. Amongst numerous other things, Python, and you guys ever go to any of the other groups? Yeah? Are they as cool as this one, or? Oh, not as cool. Wow. Step your game up, other groups. It's a pretty low bar. Cool. So yeah, Techlahoma is awesome, and they use donations to provide cool things for the community. So everybody should think about donating to Techlahoma if you can. There's tax incentives for doing that because you're donating money, and you can do it in easy ways, like if you shop on Amazon. I'm sure there's a good chance that most people in here shop on Amazon occasionally. One thing you can do is and you people online too, can do is when you go to Amazon to buy something, you can bookmark it, makes it easier, but you use prefix smile.amazon.com, and you can set it up to where a certain, I don't know how much, but there's a donation every time you purchase something that will go to the charity of your choice, or in this case, a nonprofit organization, and you can set it for Techlahoma. So if you're buying whatever goofy things that you're already going to buy, you can be also helping out Techlahoma. Additionally, this is being streamed on Twitch.tv. So if you ever can't make it, you can always tune in on Twitch.tv or check us out later, not live on YouTube. And if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can use that account on Twitch.tv, and you get one free subscription to a channel every month. So if you go to twitch.tv/Techlahoma with your Prime account joined, you can subscribe, and that's another seamless way of donating to Techlahoma. Again, we want to donate to Techlahoma, and the more we donate to Techlahoma, the less I have to talk about donating to Techlahoma, because they're like, we have way too much money, Jimmy. Stop talking about it. You've brought in so many piles of cash. It's obscene. And then I can just move on. I don't have to ramble on about it. So yeah, cool things. Let's see, Starspace 46, we sort of talked about too a little bit. That's the building that we're in. We're broadcasting out of. Your memberships online, if you like this building and think, well, I could work out of here occasionally or frequently, depending on what membership level you're looking at. So check it out online if you like it. I'm getting pretty good at memorizing most of the stuff. I think we're going purely off memory right now, the opening announcements. I guess a little bit more info about the group. We're still planning on meeting the third Monday out of every month. No changes going forward, even though we missed last month. We're going to be having a workshop pretty soon, again, like before. The idea for the upcoming workshop is going to be we're going to try to provide some way of having a virtual machine put out there like last time, where you'll be able to put it onto your own machine. This time we're thinking about doing something a little bit different at the end. We're probably going to tailor a little bit more towards script building, which is also what I'm talking about tonight a little bit, but we're thinking about having a competition for those who would like to join at the end of the meetup. First part would be informational, typical meeting, and then a little fun competition afterwards. Something like, we want a script that's been custom written to do this. Ready, set, go, using your machine, and then whoever can get it done the fastest and have it work correctly would win. And so it's something we're thinking about. I think it might be fun. Does anybody have any problems with that idea, or does that sound, maybe even if you guys aren't interested, not the worst, some people might be. So I think competition is cool every once in a while, Something friendly, nothing like, the loser doesn't go to prison or something, It's just get your name on the leaderboard. Maybe we could do a gift card even or something. That would be, get somebody to sponsor that. Additionally, as noted earlier, did not get the notice out super effectively for this meetup. Definitely looking for additional help with the group for myself. If anybody wants to join, it's good to put on your resume, even if you're not looking for a new job. So if you would like to just improve your resume, I'm a co-organizer for the OKC SQL user group. It's kind of a cool thing, I think, because it shows initiative to employers, that, hey, you're spending time, your free time, to help out with a user group like that, that means you show initiative and other things. So little, it helps out both ways. It'd say it helped me out, and then I think it'd be good for anybody who would like to join. That includes online people. I mean, you don't even have to be in Oklahoma, really. You just have to be able to post to social media and stuff like that. So, but either way, definitely looking for more team members for OKC SQL user group. And I think I'm just gonna move on. Anybody have any questions or anything, or ready for me to just move on? Good. A few smiles, a few nods. Nobody's screaming at me. There's people screaming online? No one's screaming online. Okay. All right. My plan for this evening. So I had this idea last time I did our workshop, which we didn't really flesh out, which is this idea that, let's say you're a DBA and you want something pretty fundamental, which is regular backups. How would you go about creating an agent job for backups and some cool, easy, so I'd say, just basic scripting technique for figuring something like that out. So I thought, well, let's just work through that process, and I'll probably forget and screw things up, and then you guys can see me bumble around like an idiot on here, and maybe we can get something that works, who knows. So that's what we're gonna work on. I did have stuff that worked earlier. You can see these are my emergency parachutes right here on these tabs. But we won't look at those right now because that's cheating. So let's start off with at the beginning. We're talking about the agent. So the SQL Server agent can be turned on or left off. You can have it where it spins up automatically or manually. So let's take a quick look here to start off with at the configuration manager. You can see that the agent is running right here. You can see here's the state running, and the start mode is manual. So that means if we ever restart our SQL Server, so this is the SQL Server right here that's running. If we ever restart the SQL Server, it's going to not start the agent right away. So the agent is used to automate processes, right? So you can have it kick off different jobs that do various different tasks, whatever you want it to do. And you can do lots of cool things with the agent, and you can make multi-step jobs. You can set, there's a built-in scheduler with the SQL agent where you can schedule things, and you can do some customization with scheduling as well. So it's a perfect place for if you wanted to do backups or restores on a regular interval. Now, in this case, we probably want to just swap the start mode to automatic, because in this scenario, we're imagining that this is a production SQL Server, or even, we'll go with production SQL Server that we're simulating, and we want it to back up our stuff regularly. So if we're going to do that, we're going to go to, if in the event that something happens, our server powers down something, we want the agent to come back automatically. So we're going to go over to, we're going to double click on the SQL Server agent, or you can right click it either way and go to properties. We're going to go to service, and then we're going to go down here just from start mode, and we're going to turn it on to automatic. Hit apply, and OK. And now we can see that the start mode is automatic. So not a lot going on there, but just something that if we're relying on this, then we'd like it to just start up automatically. Heading back over to SSMS, we can see right here that this is 2016. The agent is on. You can see the little green guy here. You can actually go, you don't have to go through the configuration manager. You can actually go here and stop the agent if you'd like to from here as well, or restart it if it's hung up or something. So we're going to go ahead and expand that. We're just going to do a little walkthrough of the agent before we dive into the scripting. As you can see, I already have one that I was practicing on earlier. This is disabled. You can see the little, it's probably pretty, is it small? Yes. Yeah, it's very small. I have my, the scripts sort of zoomed in, so hopefully it makes it a little easier, but just trust me, there's a little red right there. I wonder if I can I zoom, does anyone know if I can zoom in on other things? No. I know, yeah, I don't have a mouse. Actually, I might have a mouse. Well, it's not really super important right now. If I need to, if we have to go to extreme measures, I'll go see if I have a working mouse in that backpack. But this is the agent job I was working on earlier. All right, more people, awesome. That's what I like to see. So we're going to go here, we're going to right click, and we're just going to go new job. And we're just, like I said, going to do a little walkthrough on how to create a job. Even though we're not going to quite finish the job, we're going to edit it to get it to where it actually works later on. Full backups. So this is the name of the job that we're going to do. The administrator is the owner, and we're going to go to steps. So the first thing we do is you just name the job after creating it. Now we need, the steps are what actually run whenever the job, so you can have a single step job, or you can have, I don't know what the maximum number of steps is, but you could have lots of steps in a job. So some that go step by step, and you can have the steps do cool different things where if one of them fails, then you could go, so if step 1 failed and you needed that step to succeed before you could do the rest of the steps, you could have it fail and go to step number, whatever, 11, and that step number 11 is email everybody and let them know that the job failed. You can do different things. Here's what I'm talking about here. So this is the new job step, and on success, we can have it report as success. We can have it report as, so sometimes you want your steps to fail. It's kind of a little bit weird, but. So anyway, without diving too much into that, we're just going to go to the step name, back up. So like I said, the example we're using right now is a backup job. And this is going to be specifically for a database. We want it to back up at a regular interval, okay? So what we're going to do is, you can see here is there's lots of different cool things that you can do. You can have SSIS package run. You can have PowerShell run. So you don't even have to use T-SQL. You could have PowerShell or command line and a bunch of different other things. We're going to do T-SQL for this example. And then we're going to populate this job step with T-SQL. So the question is if we want to back up this database, what do we put in here for the T-SQL to have it back up? And that's the next part that we're going to work on. I'm going to show you what I think is a cool little trick. If you right-click on the database, so in this case, we have one user database called AdventureWorks Data Warehouse, or DW 2016. And this is the database, the one user database that we want backed up. So we're going to right-click it, we're going to go to Tasks, and we're going to go to Backup. So we're just doing everything through, like I said, I'm trying to take a simplified approach here to show that you don't have to have everything always memorized. You can sort of use the GUI to help you do things. So we're going to use the GUI as much as possible. And everybody who doesn't use the GUI is like, that's terrible, but I know, command line only. I just want to see a black box and nothing else. There's too many bright lights. Yeah, not here. So as you guys can see, we've talked about the recovery model in the past. If not, if you're not aware of it, we have some, you can ask me afterwards or in Slack. One thing I didn't talk about actually now that I think about is Slack. Join Techlahoma, the Techlahoma Slack. Techlahoma.slack. Terrible. Slack.techlahoma.org. I always get them mixed up backwards. The worst. But there's an OKC SQL channel there, and you can ask questions of me. So if you're like, hey, I want some more information on the recovery models, and I don't feel like Googling, then you can join the Slack and ask, and somebody will get back to you eventually, hopefully. If not me, then somebody else. But in this case, we're having simple, so we're just going to do full backups anyways. But if the recovery model wasn't simple, then we could talk about doing other forms of backups. But we're just going to keep it simple and full right now. And you can see that it spits out a backup. So we're backing up the database to disk, and it gives us a location. So we can remove that and add it manually if we want to. So if we click on these little dots here, we can see the default backup location. You typically, the best practices would be not to keep your backups on your SQL Server. It sort of defeats the purpose. Not all of the purposes, but sort of the major purposes of having backups. So if you don't know, backups you keep just in case things catch on fire, literally or not literally. If you need your backup, if an emergency happens, if something breaks or your server literally catches fire or a tornado destroys your server room or something, hopefully you have your backup stored somewhere not on the server that just got destroyed. So in this case, I have an F drive on this server where I have backups. This would be a terrible idea because this is on the same server. So if this server went up in flames, the backups would go up in flames and you have nothing. But for these purposes, this is on a virtual machine on my laptop right here. So it is what it is. Just imagine this F drive was somewhere else that was not part of this physical location. That's just sort of a side note. Yeah, shared network drive. Yeah, exactly. If you have a NAS or something like that, that would be perfect. Yeah. If you have, so if you had like a SAN and you're running everything off a SAN and then you backed it up to that SAN, then that also might be a problem because if your SAN breaks, then so do your backups. So it's like, yeah, but this isn't on my server. I have another server on my SAN. It's like, well, it's the same physical location, you know. And you can set, it starts getting into a deeper conversation a little bit, but bottom line is your server is on a physical set of disks, right? Unless you're in, even if you're in the cloud, you don't really care if you're in the cloud, but if you're not in the cloud, you have this physical set of disks. That's where your server operating system lies, and that's where everything gets done. The disks are what we're afraid of breaking. And those can be SSDs or they can be spinning. But either way, you don't want them on the same set of disks because if those disks break, then you lose both things. Totally way more than I wanted to talk about that. But I mean, to be fair, tonight was supposed to be lightning talks and I didn't get the word out there. And so now you guys are stuck with me. I have all the time in the world. So bummer for you, you know. Yes.
We have time for a question. Is there any third-party service that can
Do this?
connect through there for backups?
Sure. So the question is, repeating questions, is there third-party options that take care of backups for you, that you don't have to do this manually? And the answer is yes. There are, I don't know how many different options. Our friends down in Dallas, Sean and Jen McCown, they have Minionware backup, which has Minionware, if I understand correctly, is just like a bunch of stuff that they wrote that they just put basically, it already does everything nice and neat. And they have, I don't know the ins and outs of it all, but that's an option. And there's I don't know how many other options, but they typically cost money, and what I'm showing you doesn't cost any money. It costs time, but.
So, like, what I was actually asking is, are there any third-party applications that work through SQL Server itself, such as Microsoft Azure, that you can set up
Is there any third-party applications that you can set up through SQL Server? To connect to the cloud. I don't really, I'm not sure about that one. I'm not sure if I might not be fully understanding it either. That's probably my bad. So in your, are you asking, so the example might be you want to back up to the cloud somewhere, like to another server in the cloud that's used, for example, Azure, a server that's part of Azure. Yes. And is there a third-party connector that can connect your local server to the Azure server? Yeah. Okay, I don't know actually. I'm happy that I sort of understand I think I understand the question now, but I actually am not positive how that process would work. I'm sure that there is an answer, but I'm not sure. Does anybody else? No? No? Okay. I know it's still really small. Sorry. But yeah, the cloud is pretty cool though, now that you bring up the cloud. We've done some work with Azure. I prefer AWS, and this is, we talk mostly about Microsoft SQL Server in this group, but you can do SQL Server stuff in AWS, Amazon Web Services. They have their own cloud infrastructure, and you could do whatever you want. It's just a server in the cloud, so you can put whatever you want. You can put a SQL Server on it, and they have RDS, I think it's called, where they already have SQL Server on something pre-installed. It's like, oh, you want to do SQL Server on one of our AWS machines? We got it already ready to go for you, which is really cool. A lot of people are a little skeptical about cloud because it's not here, and it's like, it's not mine. But like in reality, I think the cloud has a lot to offer, especially with how cheap storage is nowadays. It's like you can store so much stuff in the cloud, and you don't have to worry about them catching on fire because it's like ultra redundant. You still can use backups for multiple different other reasons, like moving them to different places, or, oh, I broke my database, myself, logically, let's say, I deleted a bunch of stuff and now I need to go back, because in that case, it's not a problem with the physical disks or the physical server that the database sits on, but the data itself that could be lost in different ways. That's another side tangent. Like I said, you guys are stuck with that, so too bad for you. So in this scenario, we have a backup right here, the AdventureWorks backup, but we could just select the folder too and then name it whatever we wanted to. So in this case, we're just gonna start off by selecting AdventureWorks DW 2016.back. We're gonna hit OK. And then it populates the file name, so this is going to take us to where we want to go. And let's just bring that up real quick just to show through File Explorer. Boy, that looks so weird. Everything's all white and it's hard to see. But the important thing is that, so as you can see, this is the server, this PC here. And we have the data drive like I talked about, and then we have backup folder right here. And then we have a name of the actual database here, and we're going to back it up to here. And as you notice, we had a 2017 here, but 2017 could not be restored on a 2016 server. So if you didn't know, you cannot do that. You can't have a database that is moved forward and then you can't move it back. So it can be a problem if you accidentally move your database to a newer version of SQL, and then you're like, oops, I've got to put it back. It's like, nope, you can't just restore it. You got to do funky things. That is a lot harder than just restoring. But that's another tangent. So as you can see, this is the folder we're going to. That's the backup that we selected. Now in this case, we're setting it to overwrite what's currently there. So just something to make note of. You may or may not want that. Generally, I think it's probably not what we want. Let's just talk about a few things, just diving a little deeper into backups. So there's a media set. So there are tables and views in the system databases that record your backup information. So if you take a backup, it'll mark that in a system database and say, you took a backup of this database and all this other information about that backup. And you can find it in the system database. And there's an existing media set there. And this is what this is saying is, well, maybe you took a backup of this database 10 times already. We're going to make a new entry that goes along with that existing media set. Okay? Now, we could say overwrite all existing backup sets, so it only is the only thing that shows on there. In this case, we're going to leave append because we want to hold on to our data in general. We don't want to just get rid of stuff just to get rid of it. We want to know when the database was backed up in the past. And somewhere around here, where is it? So another thing to make note, there's this little copy only backup. That's important because whenever you're taking, this affects the backup media set. I'm not even sure if this will show. If you have this selected, copy only, I don't think that it actually writes any information to the existing media set because it's just a copy backup. It's just like and the reason why that's important is because if you're taking other backups, like log backups, differential backups and just incremental backups in general, what it does is it looks at the media set and says, okay, you took a full backup, here is the full backup. Like I said, it has all the data written there, right? And if you take a log backup, it's going to say, okay, here are all the differences since, and then it's going to look at that data that it wrote down from the full, and it's going to say since this backup. So if we don't select copy only, right, it's going to write to the media set. So that means the next time that you take a log, it's going to go since this backup here, where the copy it was not a copy, it was a legit full backup. Does that make sense? So the reason why that's important is because let's say that you're doing regularly scheduled full backups, right? Let's say you're doing them once per week on a Saturday, right? So every Saturday you're doing a full backup. So you go, oh, got to do a restore, and we have incremental. So we go, well, we're going to use Saturday's full backup, and then today is Tuesday, and we want to go from Monday. Okay, so we have a Saturday full, and then we have an incremental on Monday, right? We're going to use those two things to back up. And so if you don't know how that works, I can help try to explain it later. But the incremental basically has to be applied to the last full. It's just changes from the last full. So we have Saturday's full, and then Monday we have all the changes from the last full. Now, if you took a backup like we're talking about here without copy only being selected, so if I took one on Sunday, right, and I tried to apply the incremental backup on Monday to the Saturday full, right? So incremental Monday, Saturday full, it would go, nope, that doesn't work. Why doesn't that work? It's because I went and I took a Sunday full backup and it was not copy only. So it wrote to the media set, right? And I'm doing a lot of just talking and not really showing, but that would break. It wouldn't take the incremental from Saturday because it's going to go, no, this is changes from Sunday, not Saturday. So that's why copy only is important. We have a question?
If the full database backup copy is lost, how hard is it to
Fix that issue? Oh, that would be not good. So if you were trying to restore an incremental and you lost the full, you should hopefully have it back, that's why it's really important to verify your backups. And one thing you want to do, make sure your backups are good. and make sure that they're hopefully in a redundant place that's safe, because you want to hold on to those things. If you got rid of them and you need to do an incremental and you didn't have your full anymore, there might be something you can do, but I don't know off the top of my head. There's a lot. I always put that out there because there are a lot of smart people that have a lot of jank solutions to things, or it's like, oh yeah, you could go in there and you just alter these. But I mean, it's not intended to do that. So let me just actually show you. I'm talking a lot about it, and I'm just want to take this opportunity because we can actually show it on here too. So let's just do that real quick. I wasn't planning on doing it, and I have the stuff here. So hold on. This was on my little cheat sheet thing here. Let's just do select star. So this is the backup media family and the backup set being joined on media ID, and that's just a whole bunch of different data from different MSDB tables. Okay, so this is a system table that automatically stores data whenever you take backups. So if we execute this, it doesn't like that it can't find MSDB for some reason. Oh, that's what it was, okay. I had MSDB highlighted. Okay, so again, God, there's gotta be a way. Can we just like zoom this in somehow? Where's view? Outside of the box over.
Left. A little bit below.
Yes, here we go. I think this is probably for the text, but well, sorry. There's probably some way of showing this stuff, but I'll just talk about it, and you can just and hopefully it's not the worst thing in the world. See, I'm gonna work on my presenting skills. This is one thing. I know that there's a way probably something I need to install. Text editor, let's see. Here we go. Now we're talking. See, we're working through this together. There's got to be some. Results to text. Could probably put them in text or something, but. Well, do you guys think that we could just try to get through? I know it's not easy to see, but do you think maybe that the point could be put across? Okay. So you can see there's a lot of stuff like the backup set ID, the physical device name. So this is where the backup went, and the name of the backup. And then it's got the media family ID and a bunch of other stuff. So there's there's GUIDs, and this is, see, as you can see that the only backup that's been taken, well, actually, no, this is for AdventureWorks. I have right here where database name equals AdventureWorks. So we're just looking at the AdventureWorks stuff, but you could do this for the rest of any of the databases that got backed up. And you can see the LSN number. This is the important thing, that one of these LSNs is where it looks for the incrementals match things. And this is I'm just showing you that this is the stuff that is the kind of stuff that is physically stored. So it shows when the backup started, it showed when the backup finished. It shows the database name. All right. Oh, look at this. You can just come up here. I won't bite, He's like, how could somebody else go up there? He's an angry man. Let's see. Environment. See, we were on the wrong place. Environment, fonts and colors. Yes, this has to be grid results. I don't know how big to go. Let's try 30. Hold on, it did not work. See, we're working through this area. It's supposed to be an informal type thing, and we're doing it. So why didn't it? Okay, hold on. This setting change would need a restart of SSMS. Okay. Okay, I'm just making sure I don't have anything else I gotta do. Okay, cool. Let's try this and let's try restarting SSMS. Oh, no, I have my other stuff already. Thanks for bearing with me on this. See, this is sort of a fun thing. This is what happens, you know, in the real world when you got to do stuff like this. And hopefully, something you can take that back. Yeah, restart everything. Oh, we're not restarting the computer. This is our virtual. It's slow as heck. Always turn it off and on. That's exactly right. I was explaining that to my brother a little while ago, and he was like, how does that help? I'm like, I don't know how it helps. It just does. Just do it. All right, let's see if I can get my queries back. Wait, is there a recent thing? Let's try this. Yee. Oh, yeah. Okay, this is cheating. Nobody look. I'm just kidding. This is the one I care about because we were just doing it. All right, let's try this. I wonder if 30 is going to be like way too much. Whoa, well, that's a lot bigger. I think that's pretty good. Wow, you guys should be able to see that now. If you can't see that, then I can't help you. Cool. Look at that. We're doing it, team. See, this is why I say it's teamwork, you know? So anyway, I just was showing this to show there's lots of stuff that gets recorded whenever you back up. Ooh, it gets loud all of a sudden. Talking a little bit too directly into that. All right, so let's, so you can see this is the physical device name and blah, 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 and then some of this stuff is used, was the point, to, for incrementals, the LSN information specifically. But you can see other things like, and you can actually, I've done this before too, where it's like, why won't, there must have been another backup that was taken. You go in here and you sort by backup start date, and you can see, like, you know, if you had every Saturday, there was a backup, and then you find there's a Sunday in there, and it's like, there it is, and you can find it just by sorting by the backup date and then going over here. You could see that I was playing around with stuff like 4, 5. Definitely not procrastinating. Today. Okay, cool. Well, let's see. Back to what we were talking about. Oh, my job. It's gone. That's okay. So what we were going through is tasks, backup, if you remember. And we were talking about media options, and we're doing append. So once again, that means that, as you can see here, this database, AdventureWorks, it has a bunch of stuff already. We're adding a new entry. Append. And if we do copy only, I don't think it might actually record the backup information here, but I don't think it will. We don't need to test that, but if you want something that's not going to mess up your incrementals, you click copy only backup. That's the important thing. You can have it expire a bunch of other things and blah, 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 but we got the main stuff down. Okay, so we're going to click script. This is the thing that I wanted to show. There's a lot of stuff in the GUI that has script in SQL Server, which is really nice if you don't like memorizing all of this, like skip, no rewind, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, I just clicked a bunch of stuff and then it printed it out for me. Now, I personally, even if I was just doing a normal backup like I just showed you, I would still script it out and run it here because you can see the process of things. And like, we could just take a backup of this right now. Let's just do, we'll just change the time here. So as you can see, there's date and there's the time. And we're just going to, because I didn't change that, set it to, 1800, just because it's not 6, but we're just gonna do that just so it has a new name, and then we can hit execute or F5. And then if you clicked messages, you could see it went too fast, so, but it would back it up. And then we can go to our backup location. Remember, for us, it was on the same as the data drive, which is bad, but we're using it for an example. And then there it is. So that was with _full, right? The name of this backup is from this part right here. Now, all of that was stemming from creating a new job and a step, and what do we put in that step? So you might think, okay, let's go back to our jobs, and we were going to create a new job, backup, adventure works, and we create a step. That step was backup. And then this is where the T-SQL goes. So that's this. Now you might say, okay, well, there you go. We got the script there. This does what we ask, what we want, right? It backs up the database. But what is the problem with just copying and pasting this into the step? Does anybody have an answer? Right. You're going to overwrite the set every time you back it up. Because this name, thanks for coming. Everybody go say hi to Gretchen at Addison Group. This file name in this location will not change in its current form. So we talked about making this a recurring job, right? So if we ran this one time and we set it up ahead of time to this, we wanted it to run next Saturday. We could set it up to that way, and it runs once, and then it's done. And that would be fine, and we wouldn't have to change anything. But we might not want to do that, right? Because in this case, we want to make it run all the time. Question?
I may be jumping ahead, but so you could probably still use this code, but in the name, you maybe take the date and put get date or something.
That's exactly right. And that's exactly what we're going to do, actually. So the suggestion was, why don't we use what we have here, but modify it so that you have a dynamic name for where it goes. And that's exactly right. That's what we want to do. So I'm sure that there's multiple ways to do this, and I am not a programmer. So that's the fair part, number one. I done DBA stuff, and I've done some data engineering stuff, doing some script writing, but definitely different from being a programmer, I would say. So there's probably lots of cool tricks and things, but we're going to do something that has worked for me in the past, and it works. And sometimes that's what you need. You need something that works, and we can talk about if anybody has any ideas for better ways of doing things. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off with declaring a variable. So like we mentioned, there needs to be something that is dynamic, right? So the name that this part right here, so this is the name of the backup. That's what we need to change, right? Well, actually, we don't even, so the reason why we need the variable isn't for the run this command backup database, and then throw a variable, a dynamic value in here. You have to create a variable, create a string, put the string in, or set the variable to the string, and then execute the variable. Okay? If that doesn't make sense to you, we're going to step through it. So in this case, we're going to name the, we're just going to do varchar, and I don't even think we need to do 8,000, but I'm just going to do 8,000. I think varchar would just work, but this is the name of our variable. Now, you can't just set the name of the variable to this either. Like I said, we need it to be a string element, okay? And the nice thing is I'll show you if we have enough time. We typically try to get it out before 8, but this is a lightning talk, so I might go right till 8. We're going to do, we're going to select from this, okay? So we're going to select and then make this a string. So we're going to get rid of the go because we need the go to go. Now, if you don't know, you need, if you want to keep the ticks in here, as you can see, it's giving us issues because it's showing this is a string and then not a string and then not a string. Well, we want the string to have these ticks, so you just double tick, and then that to the script is a single tick. So I'll show you what I mean. We're going to make all these ones here double, and that gets rid of all the squigglies. So if we can just show that, we're not using the variable just yet, but if we run this in giant letters, we see this is the select that's coming back. So this is just a string value that's backup database, and then all the information here, right? Now, what we need to do is we need to be able to set the variable to this statement, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to put this into a temp table, and we're just going to, if you don't know, you do this pound sign or hashtag gets you a temp table. And you can just do into. You don't even have to declare the table. You can just say, this is my thing, and I'm going to put it into the temp table that I'm creating right now. That's what you do into. It's the laziest way of doing it. The trick is you have to name your column. So I don't have a name, so you could do as, no, don't want to do that. Let's just do temp. So the column is temp, and we're putting it into pound temp. Now, because I'm going to be testing this, I'm going to remember to drop my temp table. And then what we want to do, so this is just inserting this string value that we have here into a temp table and then dropping the temp table. So if we wanted to double check that we're getting what we want, we could do select star from temp. I don't know if that's, what have you done? Okay, hold on. All right, yeah, wait a second. Into temp. Do you have drop table? There we go. I knew that too, but I was like, I'm pretty sure you could just do drop. No, but that makes way more sense, drop table. So we can run this, and that way, now we can run it over and over again. If we didn't have drop table here, I'll just show you what happens if we don't have drop table. So if we comment that out, we run this, it inserts this into only works once. If there's no temp table, it goes boom, I'll create one. That's what the into does. And it'll select from it, but if we run it again, it's like, sorry, can't create one, there's already one here. Now, the temp table only exists locally to this particular query window, so it'll go away if we got rid of this query window and start a new one, but we need to now just run the drop portion doing? There we go. And then now, like I said, we can press F5 and then run it over and over again to our heart's content. Okay, so this is what we want. This is our string value backup database. So that is what we were testing before that worked as a backup. But now we're putting it into a temp table and then selecting from the temp table. So next what we want to do is, well, we're going to get rid of this and we're going to do set at SQL equal to select top one temp from temp. Not confusing at all. Just name everything temp. So we're going to do select top one temp. Now in this case, there's only one row being inserted, right? But we're going to do this because we might end up wanting to add more later on. We'll see. So if we set SQL here, now we're going to add print at SQL. And this is going to show us what value is in the variable. Should be the exact same thing that's in the temp table because we're setting the variable to what was in the temp table. So let's execute this and we can see this is what's being printed and it's the backup string that we talked about. Great, we've done everything right so far. What we haven't done is we haven't added the get date, which was brought up earlier. So now what we're going to do, in fact, I'm going to get rid of this full here. And I'm going to, I kind of like it better at the front. So we're going to do full. We're going to have everything, so this will be backed up. This is the AdventureWorks database. Now we're going to add, and we're going to have to convert this because get date is, oops, stupid. Convert get date. Let's see, we want var. I got to remember the order of this all. Hold on. Cheat sheet time so I don't waste time. Okay, convert varchar, that's what it is. So convert varchar get date. And we're going to have the format be 120. And I'm screwing something up. Oh, that. Stupid. Do I have too many parentheses here, maybe? No. All right, hold on. All right, instead of me using my cheat sheet, what am I doing wrong? Convert. All right, I'm going back. I trust you guys, but yeah, so as you can see, I'm going to add some replaces in there as well. Convert. You know what? Let's just copy this over there, and then we can analyze it, and then we won't waste time. Oop. Oop, 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 oop. All right. This is the problem with doing this stuff live. Stupid idiot. Sorry. Copy. Paste. Okay. So jumping a little bit ahead, we have the convert here. Convert to varchar first. I think that was probably, we're converting get date to varchar. Because so get date is a date time or something, and we want it to, it's got to be a string because it's being added into the rest of the string. If you don't do this convert, then your get date you can't add it in here like we're doing, right? So we're adding the front and back. Now get date, let's just look at what this looks like. Whoa. Sorry. So as you can see here, there's a bunch of colons and dashes and things. We don't want that in our backup name, right? So what we're doing is we're replacing 3 times. We're replacing the colon with nothing, the same thing with the hyphen with nothing, and then we're replacing the space with an underscore. So that's what these replaces are, and then we need to convert to change the get date to value varchar. Okay? And the reason why we did 120 is because if you don't, then you get different things. But we specifically wanted to have the time, because we want to know this got backed up right at this time. And so if you do the get date this time, every time you run it, it's right then. So you can't, if you did it at the minute level or the hour level, then you could be having problems with overriding existing backups. Because if you ran it both, if you had it at the hour cadence or the day and you backed up twice on the same day, you'd have problems. So we're going to do it all the way down to the second. And let's see what this looks like. So as you can see, Adventure works, DW. Now, I don't really like this because it's mixing 2016 in with, which is the name of the database. It's mixing that in with the date time right afterwards. So I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to add an underscore right here. So now you can see this is the name of the database, which has 2016 in it, and then underscore, which we just added, and then the date and the time. So we know that this backup works because we scripted it. We selected everything that we wanted in the GUI, and then we hit script. Then we created a string value, right? We put that into a temp table, and then we set a variable to that string value, and now we're printing it. Now what we can do is execute it. Execute. And what this exec will do is it will actually run this code. Which is kind of cool, kind of nifty. And you don't have to just do this with, you can do this with other things, not just backups. So this same logic applies for other things that you can do through the GUI and script out and you want to automate. So let's just see if it works. And look at that. It actually printed out, because we left the print in here, and then it backed up. 100% processed. Well, let's go look in our backup location to see if it actually worked. (19/14/20), 7:40, 14. There you go. It backed it up to our location. And now if we do this again, because I like wasting space on my computer, there's another one. About 60 seconds later, or 40 seconds later. Look at that. Kind of nifty, right? So now we know that this works, and it'll back up this database, and it'll record the moment that it was backed up. That's kind of cool. So we're going to copy this. This was our original thing. And we're going to go to our job. I'm just copying and pasting it in for the T-SQL portion of this. We have the step name, and we're going to hit OK. We're only going to do one step. Let's set up a schedule. Let's do new. And we're just going to call this Friday 12. So 12 o'clock. Oops. We're going to set this where it goes. You can select everything here. Friday. You can see I have Friday checkmark. It's recurring, enabled. The schedule is enabled. It occurs weekly, every 1 week on a Friday at noon. And this is, I named my schedule accordingly, Friday 12. All right? Now we can hit OK. We have a schedule. It will run every Friday at 12. We have one step, just a review, we have one step called backup, It does the T-SQL that we just added, so it backs up this particular database, and the name is backup AW, meaning AdventureWorks. We can hit OK, and it'll create it for us. So now if we go here, backup AW, that's what we just created. Now let's say, well, we don't want to wait. We want to test this first. We can right-click it and hit Start Job at Step. Now, because there's only one step, it will just run it straight from the one step that we have created. Start Job at Step, it will run. And look at that, green. Green means good in this case. We can go back to our backup location, and look at that. Another backup. Really not too bad, honestly. And as we were sort of talking about earlier, you can pay lots of money for stuff that can do this. And you know, this is not foolproof, by the way. There's lots and lots of issues that if you run this sort of thing, you will find problems. But hopefully this gets you in the right direction. And for simple tasks, you can use something like this if you want to back things up and you don't want to pay for third-party software to back things up for you, which is kind of cool. You have a question?
I do. What was the point in having the temporary table?
The temporary table, so you can't just set your, the question is, what's the point of having the temporary table? You need to set your variable to a string value. Because we have to do this get date function here, you can't put get date just into a set statement. You actually have to pull it from a select. So theoretically, I believe in this case, we could remove the temp table and just do the select right in here. And I believe this would work. Let's just test it out. Yeah. Okay, so it'll still work, right? So we just set this equal there. The reason why I use the temp table, and we do have a little bit of time, I'll show you that you can use the temp table to iterate through different things. So in this case, we could have just used a set and just put the select in parens here and done it that way. But you might not always want to do that. You might want to iterate through things. So you want to put things into a temp table and then go through every step. So let's take this one step further, and then I won't drag it out too much longer. But let's just say that, well, we got this working, but now we want to do all of the databases. Let's say all the databases, including the system databases. But maybe for the system databases, we'll leave out tempdb. So we want everything but tempdb backed up regularly, right? How would we do that? Well, the way we would do that is this select statement that we're putting into this temp table. What we're going to do is we're going to add values for every database that we want to back up. And we're going to pull that from a system table. I'll show you what I mean. From, let's see, master.sys.databases. Oh, it doesn't just, there we go. So now we're pulling from master.sys.databases. Real quick, I'll just show what's in this table. Select star from. As you can see, it's got the name of all the databases on our server. It also has the database IDs. These 4 will always be the same. These are system databases. You can get a bunch of other information. As you can see, the owner SID, and a bunch of other stuff, a ton of other things. And there's really cool things you can do a lot with this stuff. So you can find out if it's in simple recovery mode. And you can do things like you can set stops for, let's say you were doing incremental backups. You can do a check to say, well, is it in simple? Because if it's in simple, you can't do an incremental backup. So you can have things that you can add to your script, but that's a little bit more advanced. The bottom line is this shows what we want here, which is the names of the tables, or the databases. So we're going back up here. We're selecting from this table to get these things. Now, like I mentioned, we want everything but tempdb. Tempdb will always have database ID. I say database and database. Isn't that annoying? I like swap back and forth. Where database ID not equal. You can do that, or I think either one, that or that. I switch off of that too. You know, it's also kind of annoying. Database ID not equal to 2. So this will give us all the master, or all the databases that are in our server that aren't tempdb. And another tangent that we won't go into, why you never want to back up tempdb because it never has useful information that you want to hold on to. I mean, it's used for things. It holds stuff, but it's temporary. It's like RAM. You know, you wouldn't want to you don't back up your RAM. I mean, maybe some people do for specific things, but typically you would never do that. Same sort of thing with tempdb. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to where it says AdventureWorks, and we're going to put name here. Okay? And we're going to go, and we're going to do, actually, this will make things a little bit easier. I'm just going to copy this. And everywhere where we have AdventureWorks, I'm going to put name. Oh, not full. Sorry, what was the question? Oh, Control F, is that what you said? Control H? Oh, see, not a programmer. Control H, people. That's the advice I'm getting. Well, I'm just going to do it just to see. Oh, find replace. That's what it is. Brings it up. Okay. Look at you guys. See, this is why we do the live demos, you know? So yeah, there you go. So, well, we could have done find replace. It didn't take too much longer than it did that way, but it would be a lot faster. Now that I know that, I'm going to use it all the time. So let's see what this does. Uh-oh, I messed up. Oh, I accidentally kept it exec here. Okay, so we're just pulling up the top one right now, right? And in this case, the top one is master. But as you can see, it's backup database master to master, and then the name, we're going to do full master database. And then this is for the log table that we were looking at earlier for the media set stuff. So it works by changing, you can change the names here, excuse me. Now what we need to do is a few different options you could do. I don't like using cursors because cursors are scary. And while loops are also scary for a different reason, but I consider them to be less scary. So I'm going to use a while loop, and I'll show you how I'm going to do it. So what we're going to do is while, let's see, select count star from temp. Oh, we need another parentheses. Greater than 0. Begin. End. And that's it, right? Definitely not. So if we did this, then it would just be in here forever because temp is always going to have something. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the top one from the temp table. We're going to execute, like we talked about, at SQL. First, what we're going to do is we're going to comment this out because we're just verifying everything. Yeah, testing. Thank you. So we're going to leave a print, and we're going to leave an exec, and we're going to just do print right now. And then we're going to do delete from temp where temp, which is our column name, equals at SQL. Oh, don't need that. So now what this is going to do is it's going to go look, and it's going to it's going to look at our temp table, and it's going to say, do we have any rows in our temp table? If the count from the temp table is greater than 0, so if we have some string values, if we have some databases in our server, which you should always have databases because you're always going to have at least the system databases, then begin. We're going to look, we're going to set the SQL. In this case, we're going to print, but eventually we're going to exec the SQL. Then after we're done doing the backup, we're going to delete that row from the temp table, and we're going to go back up. Is there anything else in this temp table? If there is, get back in there, set the SQL to the top row, execute it, and delete it, and keep doing that until you're done, until you're back to, everything's backed up. Yes?
How is the delete from the temp table line, how is that only deleting the top one record?
Because of this where, so the question is how is this delete only deleting the record that we want? Now, the record that we want deleted is where the variable that we just had it set to. So we set the SQL, the variable SQL, to a specific string value that is in the temp table. When we're done with it, we want that specific value deleted. There won't be any duplicates, but if there were, this would take care of it because it looks at the column temp and it says, where is that equal to this? Now, another thing you could do if you didn't want to do it that way, let's say you had a ton of information or something, you want to make it easier, you could up here add just a incrementing number or something like that and delete that number, but this works just as well. Do we have another question? Yeah, there's only one column, right? And this is the column name. It's a little bit confusing, but because I named them the same thing. The AC makes it hard for me to hear.
Oh, okay. What I was saying was, what happens if...
And it gets quiet all of a sudden.
What happens if the backup folder doesn't exist yet?
If the man, you're getting to, he's beating me to the questions over here. So what I was gonna ask was that's exactly the right thing to ask, and I'm not even gonna tell everybody else because I'm gonna ask this question. This would not work right now, and we're gonna take a quick look at the folder structure. So we're gonna go, here's backup, right? And as you can see here, we have the AdventureWorks folder, and then this is what's inside the AdventureWorks folder. If we were to run this right now, it would not work. Can anybody explain why it would not work? I mean, obviously if you heard, then you know. Okay, so everyone heard. There's no, what we did is we added a subdirectory here for the name. Now, for this subdirectory, we already have the AdventureWorks subdirectory right there. So AdventureWorks works, but as you can see, we don't have master or any of the other ones, MSDB or model. And if we were to add new databases, we wouldn't have those folders either. So, yeah, you would need to either set that up where your server created the subdirectory for you, which you can do, and I actually have a way of doing it, but people, well, you should be sort of anxious if you see this. I'll just show real quick. So I have this command shell. So there's something called XP command shell, and people debate whether or not you should have it turned on. Now, exec sb configure, this is danger, danger, danger. This is like, this is your server settings, server level settings, and you can royally mess up your server if you do this wrong. If you mess with the SP configure, but we can look at it. XP command shell. This is what we were talking about. XP command shell allows us to do command line functions through the server. Through the T-SQL. So the reason why, and there's a whole debate about it, and we won't get into it, but some people don't like it turned on because it's scary. What you should know is you have to have SA rights to be able to use XP command shell already. So you have to have the top level privileges already. And if you have top level privileges, you can turn on XP command shell. So if it's sort of an illusion if you turn it off that you're going to actually protect yourself, right? You can protect yourself from incidental harm. So if you accidentally ran something that you didn't know, it was already turned off. But anyway, it's this whole debate. You can turn it on and you can actually make your backup and just for time's sake, this is what you would run, XP create subdirectory. What you can do is you can go do the same thing, basically what we were just talking about, create a new variable. In this case, I created one called target directory, and make the directory to the name of every database that you're going to back up. And you do that before executing your SQL. And it would create all the directories before backing up. So it would work. And the nice thing is that if the directory already exists and you run XP create subdirectory, and it already exists, just doesn't break, it doesn't hurt anything. So you could just run this every time. We're not going to run this one here, but as you can see, you can loop through a bunch of things in a sort of fun way to get more stuff done, to iterate through different things. So in this case, we could use this, this script that I already wrote over here. We could put this into a job, run it iteratively, and it would back up all your databases to whatever location you want them to go to. Now, that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. I was going to get into actually restoring stuff too. And that was using the media set that we talked about. And you can actually go and take whatever the last one is. So if you were restoring to, let's say that you have a production database and you want to play around with it, so you want to restore it down to your dev or your staging server, you could just look whatever the last backup was, restore that, and it's the exact same process as what we just ran through. You just do restore, and you just work on it until you get to this point, and you can restore it. And you can do lots of other cool things like that too. And that's the power of just having a little bit of knowledge on how to tinker with the scripts and knowing how the SQL agent works. So, yeah. Anybody have any questions about any of that? Question? The issues with XP command shell.
Yeah, I think you can use SQL CMD. Well, I've used SQL CMD. Like you put in a SQL CMD.
Okay, SQL CMD, and it would do the same thing without turning on command shell. Okay, yeah, I knew that there were some other things. I think I've had issues with that, but I could be wrong. So you might be totally right. SQL CMD you might be able to do the exact same thing without turning on. Cool. Okay, cool. So SQL CMD, SQL command, you should be able to do the same thing. That's what I'm being told.
And from there, you could actually write to execute this script, which is
Yes, yeah. So, that's good information. Another question?
You mentioned earlier when doing the while loop,
Yes.
you were avoiding using a different method.
Yes, cursors. So, yeah, you want to know why?
Show an example of a cursor.
I never used, so the question is, can I show an example of cursors? The answer is, yeah, I never use them, and I could show you, but it would be using Google. Cursors, basically, the problem with cursors is you can, if I'm remembering correctly, they can, you can like fill up your memory with them if you don't, what is it? Yeah, if you don't flush it out, or I can't remember what the exact, yeah, it can be bad. It can be really bad. So like with temp tables and things like that, that goes away whenever you close it, but you can close something and leave a cursor open, and if the cursor stays open, and especially if you're running that iteratively, you can just take up a bunch of memory, and it can be really ugly. That's why while loops, so the problem with while loops is, let's say you get stuck in a while loop, it's just gonna keep running and keep running and keep running and keep running, and it'll never finish, which can be a bummer because maybe you started a job and it's just gonna go on forever, right, if that happened, but it's not gonna kill your server. You know what I mean? Like you could do something really expensive that takes up a bunch of CPU, but it's different than totally taking over all the RAM on your server. Question? Can you use a different, another loop other than while? Just if instead of while? Well, you could do it. Yeah, you can do it. I mean, oh, I didn't have it here. Oh, so you can use if, but you have to iterate through things. Right. So because of the databases here, and we're doing more than one, we need to be able to do the top one, but then we have to go back through and take another row out because now we're doing more than just AdventureWorks. So you don't have to use the while loop if you're only doing it one time, but whenever it comes to iteration, that's whenever you have to use the while loop. Sure.
I can't remember the syntax in SQL Server, but when you're initializing your variable at the top, colon equals and then set it to a value.
Yes, so you can declare it and then do equals.
So I wonder if you could take that whole string where you were doing it earlier, where you were building you were doing the ways, or if you could do all of that in the declaration.
Well, like you could just avoid declaring up here, and you could instead do declare. I think it doesn't like it because I think this. Oh, I messed something up. Oh, you know what? We can't do the declare here because it's going to keep declaring it over and over again. I think am I stuck in the loop? I am. So yeah, get stuck in the loop. I don't know where B is coming from. That's kind of weird. Oh yeah, one character. That makes sense. Okay, so yeah, in this case, yeah, we couldn't do the declare in here because we're. Right, so you can't, so the thing with get date is you can't just set it in the variable. You have to use it with select. So that's why you could do, like I showed before, you could take this whole thing. Well, you can't take this one in particular because, do I have the other ones? Oh, no. So put it up here like, let's see. So put it up here, select get date. Yeah, and all this good stuff. Yeah, you could put this in here for sure, or you could just put. What you could do is even you could make a new variable for time, and then you could put that in here, and you can do lots of different things. And maybe there's a better way that you're thinking of that I don't quite I'm not picking up all the way. This would give you, for SQL, it doesn't have the select, but this would give you the correct date time here. But the problem is that with this particular example, you couldn't just put this whole thing into this declaration because that would be an array, and you can't. This SQL variable is one string value only. It's not an array. Does that make sense? You say declare time? Yeah, you. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You could definitely do it. Yeah. Exactly like that. Yeah. You could avoid the temp table entirely if you were only dealing with a single string value. Absolutely. Like I said, the reason why I initially put it in the temp table is just because I knew we were moving on to another step where we're going to be iterating through more things. But yeah. Current underscore date. I don't know if that's two R's, dyslexia, current date. Yeah, I don't know what current date is. Well, hold on, select. I don't know, maybe, is it? Yeah, so I think current date, I do think, I agree that in Microsoft SQL Server, get date is the current date of other databases, which is why we use the get date, and then the specific 120 is the formatting. Yeah, no problem. Probably forgetting other things. Like I said, I'm also not a programmer, so it's kind of cool though. You can, using this logic, you can keep expanding this out further and further and further. You can have it where you can make it a, what I ended up doing, I have a big, it's a couple 100-line version of this where it looks at, you can set it to where you have a full variable. You can make it full or differential or log, and depending on that, you have an if statement that looks at whatever the backup type variable is. And so let's say that I want to do a full backup of all the user DBs. I can do user DB equals 1 or whatever, and using that logic go, and then you just have a bunch of if statements and different logic throughout your script, and then it'll just pop out the right thing. So if you want all the user DBs backed up, you just put in the right variables, and then you can set that up to where it gets put into let's say you want all the user DBs backed up on a certain schedule, you just put that into a job, that script, and then you just set those variables to all the user DBs, all full. In my particular, in my script, some of the specifics were, it did things like if you were trying to take a log backup, like I mentioned before, you have to have a full already backed up. And if it would look at all of your databases, it would check the backup file, and it would see, have you taken a full backup of everything? If it didn't, then it would exclude that database, and it would send you an email saying this database needs a full backup. And it would do that so that it wouldn't error out and break everything. It would just kick that out, let you know it needs a full backup, and then it would just keep moving on, take log backups of everything else. But yeah, you can just, like I said, and mine isn't even fully comprehensive either. You keep adding on more and more and more, and then before you know it, you have something that does a bunch of work. So. Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the other thing. Exactly. Yeah, and that was at one of my previous my previous jobs. We just had all the fulls in one folder. It was like make sure I still had the create directory subdirectory there for that folder, just in case we got moved on to a new server or something like that. It would just look at whatever server name is, and then whatever the default location was, and it would just back it up to that location or whatever. Or maybe it was a NAS. That's what it was. We were backing up to a NAS, yeah, obviously. But it would it would check the server name, and it would create a subdirectory. So that way, if we change server names, or if we added a server to, maybe we failed over or something like that, it would put them in the right place. And there's lots of things you can do with that. If you have a cluster, you can look at, which head are we, so if we failed over and you wanted it to go to the other one, you can set up a bunch of cool, fun things. It just all expands out of this. And like I said, this works for backing up, but you can do it for other things. You can do it for restoring. I'm sure there's countless other things. You could even, there's so many different things you can script out, and yeah, reports, all sorts of stuff. And it's just the same. These are the fundamental ways of being able to iterate through things that without using cursors and executing variables. So yeah, it's me rambling on a whole lot. Like I said, lightning talks. But yeah, kind of cool, fun stuff. Hopefully some of that was interesting. Any other questions? Do we have anything online? Did you see, Kimberly? Okay, cool. Okay, well, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Next month, like I said, anybody wants to help out, let me know. If not, no worries. But next month, we're going to be probably having a speaker, and then we're probably going to do a workshop the month after that. So anyway, thanks for coming. Enjoy some food if there's anything left. And yeah, see y'all next